What's good, YouTube? Recently, I was watching a complex interview with Meek Mill at the release of Expensive Pain, and Meek Mill said something interesting on there that I thought would be great to share with you guys and break down the business of how it works. And that was that Meek Mill was actually supposed to be part of Voice of the Heroes with Lil Durk and Lil Baby. But he said in the interview that he actually opted out of doing it because the business didn't make sense. And we see so many collab albums these days, Future and Juice WRLD, Future and Drake, Future and Uzi, that I thought it would be great to break down the business of how it works, especially for any upcoming artists that are listening or people that are interested in music business. Okay, so before actually getting into how the artist's money is going to be split up for the long term making royalties, it's actually important to understand how the money of an album itself is going to work. So the first level of that is the record labels. So as part of Voice of the Heroes, there were 3 record labels involved. There was Alamo Records, who Lil Durk is signed to, QC, who Lil Baby is signed to, and Motown Records, who is QC's partner at Universal Music Group that QC brings in for specific albums that they want to push. Right, so hypothetically say that each label involved in this fronted $1 million. So that would be $3 million in total. $1 million from Alamo, $1 million from QC, and $1 million from Motown. And by the way, all the numbers that I'm going to be saying in this video are all hypothetical and just for the purpose of content for education. Only the people involved in Voice of the Heroes know what the actual money and splits are. So with the advance that the labels are giving out to Lil Baby and Lil Durk, it's up to them to use it how they want to use it, right? So they will also go, that advance also goes to their living expenses. They get to keep some of it, but it's also used for creating the album, such as paying producers for beats, the recording of the album, paying engineers or having songwriters, going towards music videos, production of that or promotion of that, and promo for the entire album, such as billboards, for example. So before any money can be made back on an album, the labels must recoup their money. So the album itself must make $3 million, and that $3 million goes back into the label's pockets. Now, once the $3 million is made back by the label, which is not very difficult for artists of the magnitude of Lil Baby and Lil Durk, then royalties are paid out. And this is where Meek Mill's issue was, and where collab albums get tricky when it comes to making money from the album in the long term. Now, any normal or average major label deal, the artists are getting 12 to 18% of the distribution of that project, meaning the money made from streaming and digital downloads. Now, Lil Baby and Lil Durk, along with Meek Mill, they're of higher magnitude, so they're going to be making a higher royalty rate, most likely. Now, the labels are the ones risking and fronting the money, so the labels most likely are going to be the ones that get a majority of it. So, for example's sake, I said that the labels are going to make 70%, and that the artists are going to be making 30%. So if that's the case, QC is going to be making 23.3%, Motown is going to be making 23.3%, and Alamo is going to be making 23.3%. Now that can vary depending on how much money each actual label fronted for this project. So if that's the case of the labels getting 70%, Lil Baby and Lil Durk each are going to be getting 15%. Now, at a high level, producers actually get part of the distribution or the master recording royalties that are made. So it's called a point system. And it depends on the magnitude of producer, how much of a percent that they get of the song. And that royalty percentage that producers get come out of the artist share of the royalties. Now, for this example, I said that these producers on Voice of the Heroes are going to be getting 2 points on each song that they produced. So say that 2% is taken out of Durk and Baby's share for each song. That means Durk and Baby are now going to be making 13% of the streaming and digital download royalties in the long term. Now, if we throw Meek Mill into this equation, which there's now going to be 3 collaborators instead of 2, Lil Baby would be getting 10% of the royalties, Lil Durk would be getting 10% of the royalties, and Meek Mill would be getting 10% of the royalties before the producers get their points. So if you add Meek Mill in this equation, Lil Baby, Lil Durk, and Meek Mill would be getting 8% of the royalties from the streaming and the digital downloads in the long term. And that is why Meek Mill said, yeah, this business just doesn't make sense. And, granted, the artists are getting advances for these albums, but I'm sure the advance was not generous enough for Meek Mill to want to even be involved. And if Meek was involved, that means MMG would have been involved, Rick Ross's label, meaning there would have been a fourth label involved. So the business, I'm sure, just would not have made sense all around in the long term. And that's why he ultimately said, yeah, I'm just going to let Lil Baby and Lil Durk, they are of the same age bracket. They're both popping right now. I'm going to let them do their own thing. Now, imagine that Meek Mill was part of this project and that the 8% royalty rate was at stake here today, and that all the labels had made their money back and now the artists were receiving royalties. To date on Spotify, Voice of the Heroes has gotten about 481 million streams, which is equal to about $2 million. So if the 8% royalty rate was at stake, Lil Baby, Lil Durk, and Meek Mill each would have made about $160,000. And if we think about the magnitude of that album, it's kind of crazy to think they only would have made back $160,000. If you take Meek Mill out of that equation, and it's just Lil Baby and Lil Durk, they each would be making the 13% royalty rate based on our hypothetical numbers, and that's $260,000. So that's why collab albums get tricky, and that's why the business of them, that's probably why Meek backed out. The business just didn't make sense in the long term. So if you guys found this video helpful, be sure to like it and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.